Hold on a second. Uh-oh. Let's see. It's not working. Let's just check it's YouTube. Yeah, we are live on YouTube, but not on. Anyway. Yeah, we are not on Facebook. Let's see what the problem is. Okay, about to do that on the phone. Again, all right. All right. Live video. There we go. Okay, sorry for the delay, everyone. We had to go separately on Facebook because the video wasn't working. Video connection wasn't working. Okay, let's start. And first, we're going to chant. Chief Jago, Gorachana Molai, Caitanya Caritamrta Madhya Lila, Samsarami Tareli Mulia Rohili to me Abhijarabare No Mare Like Ami Wainu Avatara Ami Vina Manuhara Jaya Chaitomara Ele Jay Shakimaya Nashibarla Ki Urinam Mantra Baudumimaki Wakati Nora Brown Jane Orea Say hi my mantra Laila Lumpia Jijano Jirago, Rora Chanapore Kotan Maya Isachira Golai Namahom Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prasthaya Uttalai Jimate Mokti Vedanta Zameni Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajapati Sheshasandravani Shachade Satarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jivadvaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Unibo Haribo Haribo Nichako Bo Haribo 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvacharya Osvatara Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Vijay ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Vijay Ananda Goti Vaishnava Vrinda Vijay Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Vijay Ramse Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Bhakta Vrinda Vijay Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Shyam Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Nathuram Ki Jai Jagadada Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nivashesha Shinivadi Paschachit Deshatarni Sa Om Ganat Mirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chaksur Medinam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're going to continue with our study of the Caitanya Caritamrta. Last night, or yesterday morning, depending on where you are in the world, we just talked in general about Mayavadi philosophy and Buddhist philosophy and Shankaracharya and Buddha and ritualistic Brahmanism. We didn't really read the Caitanya Caritamrta yet during yesterday's class. The reason we did is that it was the Sunday feast program here, and I was just giving basically a philosophical summary of this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam because we had a lot of guests here for the Sunday program. But now we'll continue reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, let's just get things set here. Alrighty, we are set. Okay. We're continuing from text 172 in the 6th chapter of the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And for those of us, or those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is the discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has previously given Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a 7-day exposition on Mayavad philosophy utilizing the Vedanta Sutra. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is now destroying Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's illusion by explaining the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra rather than the indirect meaning that was taught by Sripad Shankaracharya for a specific purpose. So this is what's happening. So let's continue. Vyasabranta Pali se Sutre Doshadiya Vivartavada Stapiyache Kalpana Kariha. Shankaracharya states that the theory of transformation presented in the Vedanta Sutra implies that the absolute truth is transformed. In this way, the Mayavadi philosophers denigrate Srila Vyasadeva by accusing him of error. Thus, they find fault in the Vedanta Sutra and misinterpret it to try to establish the theory of illusion. First of all, Srila Vyasadeva never presents that the absolute truth is transformed. That's called Parinamvada. He presents that the absolute truth's energies are transformed. The absolute truth, Brahman, is never transformed. And then what happens in the Vedanta Sutra, the commentators that are following in the footsteps of Sripad Shankaracharya try to establish the theory of illusion, that the absolute truth falls into illusion. So this is quite illogical, because if the absolute truth falls into illusion, then illusion must be stronger than the absolute truth, and therefore illusion must be the absolute truth, because the illusion is more powerful than the absolute truth, and the illusion is causing all of us to think that we're not God, which is kind of stupid anyway. No, I got news for you. Illusion, vivarta, is causing all of us to think that we're the body. And illusion is causing the impersonalists to think that they are God. You know, that's such an illusion. I was talking about this today with some devotees. How, this is actually quite a sad thing, that we identify ourselves with certain, let's say, family members or associates and things like that in the material world. And I was talking about my mother, who I love very much. Sannyasi can love his mother. It's not against the regular principles. So anyway, and I was thinking, that I was remembering all the different, not all of them, but the major interactions I had with my mother when I was a little kid. Believe it or not, I was a little, not I had a little baby's body. Sorry, I never was a little kid. I had a little baby's body. So I was remembering these interactions, how my mother used to dress me and everything like that. But I was thinking, where has that mother gone now? Now, my mother's still alive. She's still in that body. But because of her age, anyway, she's actually forgotten all those things. So her personality is completely changed. So, in one sense, that same mother that I had before is no longer there, even though she's alive. It's not the same person anymore. And even apart from that, with mother and everything, we see people undergo radical personality shifts for different reasons. They may have a tumor in their brain, or they may have a traumatic circumstance, and the same person you were dealing with before is no longer there. But we're identifying with those relationships, with that identity. Very, very foolish. Anyway, the first aphorism of the Brahma Sutra is Atato Brahmagiyasa. What does that mean? Now's the time to look for the absolute truth. Or as Prabhupada translates here, we must now inquire into the absolute truth. The second aphorism immediately answers, what is the absolute truth? Janmadhyasya. Aha. The absolute truth is the original source of everything. In other words, put it in different words, the absolute truth is that which everything comes from. Janmadhyasya yataha does not suggest that the original person has been transformed. Rather, it clearly indicates that he produces this cosmic manifestation through his inconceivable energy. This is also clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, text 8, one of the nutshell verses. You should remember it. Matak sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhutima buddha samavata. Ham sarvasya bhagavad matak sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhutima buddha samavata. I am the source of everything. From me, everything comes. And those who are intelligent, they worship me with all their hearts. This is also confirmed in the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1.1 Yadova Imani Bhutani. The supreme absolute truth is that from which everything is born. He's the source of everything. Similarly, in the Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.7, it is stated, Yatorana Nabi Srijate Gurate Cha. The Lord creates and destroys the cosmic manifestation as a spider creates a web and draws it back within itself. All of these Vedic statements indicate the transformation of the Lord's energy, not of the Lord himself. Transformation of the Lord's energy is called Harinamavad. So that's called Shakti. Technically, it's called Shakti Parinamavad. Shakti means energy. Harimana means the parinama. So parinama means the transformation, vada, philosophy. Therefore, being very anxious to protect Srila Vyasadeva from criticism, Shankaracharya became a pseudo-gentleman and put forward his theory of evolution, Vivartavad. Shankaracharya concocted this meaning of Parinamavad by word juggle, where he endeavored very hard to establish Parinamavad as Vivartavad, which is very similar. Parinama means the absolute truth becomes transformed. But if the absolute truth falls into Maya, that's a transformation too. There ain't no difference. And then how can the absolute truth be in Maya unless something gets him to be in Maya? We mentioned that before. And that thing must be more powerful than the absolute truth. Maya, ooh. But actually, we find in the Gita, what does it say? Mama Maya Durachya. Maya belongs to Krishna. Mama eva ye prapajante. One who surrenders to Krishna can easily overcome Maya. So if one who surrenders to Krishna can overcome Maya, don't you think Krishna is stronger than Maya? Obviously. Jivara dehe atma buddhi, se nityo hoya, jagatye nitya nahi, nashvara matra haya. The theory of illusion can be applied only when the living entity identifies himself with the body. As far as the cosmic manifestation is concerned, it cannot be called false, although it is certainly temporary. So let's be a little more explicit about this. The material energy continues to exist. So what does it mean that it is temporary? Sometimes it's manifest. That's the cosmic manifestation. And even when it's manifest, it continuously changes form. It's endlessly mutable. Although you do not see the changing of forms, just like you don't see yourself getting old, unless you actually have pictures of yourself, but you cannot perceive it, but because the changes are more subtle than something you can perceive right at this moment. But still, to think it's continually existing is actually false. The living entity is the eternal servant. Oh, whoops, sorry, went too far. The living entity is the eternal servant of Krishna, being part and parcel of the Lord. He is continually pure, constitutionally pure, but due to his contact with material energy, he identifies himself with either the gross or the subtle material body. Such identification is certainly false and constitutes the genuine platform of the theory of illusion. The living entity is eternal. He can never be subjected to the limits of time, as are his gross and subtle bodies. The cosmic manifestation is never false, but is subject to change by the influence of the time factor. That's called parinama. Remember that word. For a living entity to accept this cosmic manifestation as the field for its sense enjoyment is certainly illusory. In other words, you accept something that's not you, and you are not there. Oh, the material world. I'll explain that sometime in the future by what I mean by you are not there. This material world is a manifestation of the material energy of the Lord. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the 7th chapter, text 4. These are the eightfold elements. Bhuir apo nalo vayu kamano bhuirevacha ahankaritiyame vina prakriti astada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, balls, all together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. The material world is the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it is not a fact that the Supreme Lord has been transformed into this material world. Why? Because the material world is matter, dull matter. And the spiritual energy is alive, and Krishna is above the spiritual energy, and Krishna is fully conscious. The Mayavadi philosophers, devoid of true understanding, have confused the theory of illusion and the theory of cosmic manifestation by word jugglery. The theory of illusion can be applied to a person who identifies himself with the body, which is what I just told you before, with the body and the things connected to the body. That's right. The relatives, the country, the race, all these things are illusory. I mean, right now you can say, yes, I have a body, it's a male body, a white body, a green body, or something like that. But to think that that's yourself, that's the illusion. To identify yourself with that designation, that's the illusion. The living entity is the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and the material world is his inferior energy. Both, however, are Prakriti energy. Although the energies are simultaneously one with the Lord and different from him, the Lord never loses his personal form due to the transformation of different energies. Remember, I cited the Upanishad, Om Purnam Adam, that the Supreme Personality of God is perfect and complete, and so many emanations come from him that are perfect and complete, and he remains the complete whole. Study the Srimad, the Upanishad, Sri Upanishad. Pranavaye Mahavakya Ishvarera Muti Pranavahaite Sarvaveda Jagat Utpati. The transcendental vibration Omkara is the sound form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All Vedic knowledge and this cosmic manifestation are produced from the sound representation of the Supreme Lord. Om, that's the Mahavakya. Omkara. So all Vedic knowledge and cosmic manifestation are produced from this Om. Omkara is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in sound. This form of his holy name is accepted as the transcendental vibration, Mahavakya, means the great saying, by virtue of which the temporary material manifestation has come into being. If one takes shelter of the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Omkara, he can realize his constitutional identity and engage in devotional service even though in conditioned life. So this reminds me of the Bible. And in the beginning was the Word. What was the Word? Om. And of course, the impersonalists consider the Omkara to be their primary Mahavakya, and you're going to hear another one in a second. Tatwamasi jivahetu pradeshika vakya pranavanamanitare kahe Mahavakya. The subsidiary vibration, Tatwamasi, you are the same, is meant for the understanding of the living entity, but the principal vibration is Omkara. Not caring for Omkara, Shankaracharya has stressed the vibration Tatwamasi. Tatwamasi means you are that. In other words, taken indirectly means you are God. You are the absolute truth. And they take that as a Mahavakya, great sound vibration. But actually, Omkara, they should be taken. Tatwamasi is accepted as the primary vibration by one who does not accept pranava, this transcendental sound, the incarnation of the holy name of the Lord, as the chief principle in the Vedic literature. By word Jaguri, Shankaracharya tried to create an illusory presentation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his relationship with the living entities in the cosmic manifestation. Tatwamasi is a warning to the living entity not to mistake the body for the self. In other words, it means we are of the same nature as the Absolute. That's the way Vaishnava is taken, rather than that you are the Absolute or you are the Supreme Brahman. We are of the same nature. We're tiny. He is infinite. We are infinitesimal. Tatwamasi is a warning to the living entity not to mistake the body for self. Therefore, Tatwamasi is especially meant for the conditioned soul. The chanting of Omkara, the Hare Krishna mantra, is meant for the liberated soul. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Ai mukta kular upashyamanam namashtaka, 1. Thus the holy name of the Lord is chanted by the liberated souls. Similarly, Parikshit Maharaj says, Nivritarshar Upagiyamanat. That's the 10th canto, first chapter, text 4. Actually, it's like a nutshell verse of the 10th canto. And that's the verse I quoted a few times in the last few days, because that verse states, Uman Vidajeta Banal Pashu, not that those who are killing animals and eating animals cannot become Krishna conscious. The holy name of the Lord can be chanted by those who have fully satisfied their material desires or who are fully situated in a transcendental platform and devoid of material desires, which is pretty much the same thing. My material desire is satisfied, or I have no more. Because they're satisfied, you don't have any more. The name of the Lord can be chanted by one who is completely freed from material contamination. And this is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Yavi Lashita Shunyam Yana Karma Navratam Yavi Lashita Shunyam Yana Karma Navratam Anukulyena Krishnami Shilaram Bhaku Uttamam. Defining what pure devotional service is, having or being devoid of any motivation, either subtle or gross, and wanting to do what the Lord wants and doing it joyfully and devotionally. Haribol. Shankaracharya has indirectly minimized the value of the principal Vedic mantra, Omkara, by accepting a subordinate vibration, Tatvam Asi, as the most important Vedic mantra, Tatvam Asi. Emati kalpita bhashe shatadosha dila bhattacharya purapaksha apara karila. Thus, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu criticized Shankaracharya Sarirakya Bhasha as imaginary. Imaginary means he took indirect meanings of the verses in the Vedanta Sutra. Sarirakya Bhasha is a commentary in the Vedanta Sutra, and he didn't take the direct meanings. The rule for interpreting Vedic literatures is if the direct meaning makes sense, you accept it. If it doesn't make sense, then you can take like a metaphorical meaning. Like if you say, the example given is, go to so-and-so's house on the lake. Now, usually the direct meaning would mean the house is on the lake, but actually you understand the house is on the shore of the lake. Pretty easy to understand. And he pointed out hundreds of faults in it. To defend Shankaracharya, however, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya presented unlimited opposition. Vitanda Chala Nigrahari Aneka Utaila Sabakandi Prabhu Nija Mata Se Stapila. Vitanda means just to defeat the enemy. The Bhattacharya presented various types of false arguments with pseudo-logic and tried to defeat his opponent in many ways. However, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all these arguments and established his own conviction. In other words, when one engages in Vitanda, it's not with the idea of establishing the truth of an argument, it's with the idea of defeating your enemy. The word Vitanda, actually Prabhupada describes it here, indicates that a debater not touching the main point, establishing his own point, simply tries to refute the other person's argument. When one does not touch the direct meaning but tries to divert attention by misinterpretation, he engages in chala. The word nigraha also means always trying to refute the arguments of the other party. Very interesting. Bhagavan Sambandha Bhakti Abhideya Hoya Prema Prayojana Vede Dinavastu Kaya. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the central point of all relationships. Acting in devotional service to Him is one's real occupation, and the attainment of love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. These three subject matters are described in the Vedic literatures. Now, you may understand what Lord Chaitanya is talking about in terms of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So let's go over these again. So the Supreme Personality of God is the central point of all relationships. That's Sambandha, understanding the relationship between the Lord and all of the tattvas, like the living entity, like the material energy, like time, like karma, like his shaktis. That's Sambandha. Now, what do you do about that information? In other words, to elevate yourself spiritually is called Abhideya. So that's acting in devotional service to Him. And the goal of Abhideya is the attainment of love of God, is the ultimate goal of life. These three subject matters are described in Vedic literature. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Lord Krishna confirms, too far here, this statement, Vedas cha savar ahameva Vedyaha. The actual purpose in reading the Vedas is to learn how to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord. The Lord Himself advises Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Mad Yajimam Namaskuru. That's in the 9th chapter of the Gita, text 34. Therefore, after studying the Vedas, one must then execute devotional service by thinking always of the Supreme Lord, Mana, my mind, fixing your mind on Krishna, not my mind. Yes, fixing my mind on Krishna, which is Mam. Becoming His devotee, worshiping Him, and always offering Him obeisances. This is called Vishnu Aradhana, means worship of Vishnu, worship of God. and is the supreme occupational duty of all human beings. It is properly discharged in the Varnashram Dharma system. We discussed this a little while ago, which divides society into Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In other words, one is a student, one that's married, one is retired, or one is completely renounced, or not or, and at the same time, one may be a teacher in society, one may be an administrator, one may be a businessman or farmer, or one may just be a regular worker. That's fine. This is the whole scheme of Vedic civilization. However, this institution is very difficult to establish in this age. Therefore, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu advises that we not worry about the Vedic system of Varnashrama Dharma. Wow. Don't worry about it. Rather, we should take directly to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and simply hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from pure devotees. This is the process recommended by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is the purpose of studying the Vedas. Right? Araye kichukake sakale kalpana swata pramana veda vakye kalpena lakshana. If one tries to explain the Vedic literature in a different way, he's indulging in imagination. Any interpretation of the self-evident Vedic version is simply imagination, imaginary. When a conditioned soul is purified, he is called a devotee. A devotee has his relationship only with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his only occupational duty is to execute devotional service to satisfy the Lord. This service is rendered through the Lord's representative, the spiritual master, Yashadevi Parabhakti Thakur. So what this means is one has implicit faith in the spiritual master and in the Vedic literatures. Everything is revealed to that person, and that's from the Shveta Spatara Upanishad. That's what SU stands for, 623. When the devotee executes devotional service properly, he attains the highest perfection of life, love of God. It's about In the rest of that verse, which is 126, then he is satisfied, because we all want to be satisfied and not hankering. Because in the material world, we're hankering. So chati klangshati after different things. We need this, that to be happy, but in the spiritual realm, we got it. We got the ultimate source of happiness, which is the association with Krishna. The ultimate goal of understanding the Vedas is to be elevated to the platform of rendering loving service to the Lord. The Mayavad philosophers, however, consider the central point of relationship to be the impersonal Brahman. The function of the living entity to be the acquisition of knowledge of Brahman, resulting in detachment from material activity, and the ultimate goal of life to be liberation or merging in the existence of the Supreme. Sounds pretty boring to me. Well, how do you become detached from material activity? You cannot become detached from material activity. It is impossible. But you have to become attached to something better. That's all. All of this, however, is simply due to the imagination of the conditioned soul. It simply opposes him to material activities. One should always remember that all Vedic literatures are self-evident. No one is allowed to interpret the Vedic. If one does so, he indulges in imagination, and that has no value. And again, I want to explain what Prabhupada means by the word interpretation. Interpretation means changing the meaning in Prabhupada's context. Now, you can interpret by elaborating on the meaning, because the word interpret has many different meanings according to the context in which you find the word interpret. Acharya doshanahi shvaragya haira ataiva kalpana kari nashtika shastakaila. Actually, there is no fault on the part of Shankaracharya. He simply carried out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had to imagine some kind of interpretation, and therefore he presented a kind of Vedic literature that is full of atheism. And I think I explained that before, that Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. He had to bring people back to the Vedic literatures because they've been previously taken away from the Vedic literatures by Lord Buddha, because Lord Buddha wanted to stop the animal killing and the exploitation that was occurring in the name of the Vedic literatures, in the name of Brahmanism. And definitely people had to stop eating meat and killing animals. Why? Because you cannot be spiritual and kill animals. Impossible. There's no possibility. Sorry about that, Charlie. There's no possibility of being spiritual and engaging in eating meat. That's it. Whether you like it or not, doesn't work. Okay? So Lord Buddha did that. Then Shankaracharya, because the only way he could do that is to take people away from the Vedic literatures, because people were using the some injunctions in the Vedic literatures that were meant for a previous age to justify animal killing. Then Shankaracharya brought them back to the Vedic literatures, teaching a sort of covered version of Buddhism. Okay? But, so in other words, he had to sort of use, like I said, a covered version of Buddhism, which is actually atheism, in order to bring them back. And that's just one step. And then Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, not only Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, but the other great acharyas in the sampradayas like Ramanujacharya and Ambarkacharya, etc., brought them fully back to the real understanding of the Vedic literatures. Swagamai kapitaistvam cha janan madvimukhan kuru mam jagopaya yena syat shristir eso turotara. Addressing Lord Shiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Please make the general populace adverse to me by imagining your own interpretation of the Vedas. Also cover me in such a way that people will take more interest in advancing material civilization just to propagate a population bereft of spiritual knowledge." Wow. It was necessary. And Shankaracharya drove the Buddhists out of India. That's why you will find an area of Buddhists in India. Some around Gaya and some other places, but generally there's very few Buddhists, even though Buddhism started in India. It was all over India at one particular point. But now you have to go to Ceylon, you have to go to Burma, you have to go to Nepal, you have to go to Thailand, because Shankaracharya really argued them out of India for all intents and purposes. This is a quotation from the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda 62:31. Mayavadam satshastram prachanam bodhamuchyate mayaiva vihitam deve khalo brahmana murtina. Which even form goddess Durga, the superintendent of the material world. In the age of Kali, I take the form of a Brahmana, explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way similar to Buddhist philosophy. So here, Lord Shiva is talking to his wife and explaining what he's doing, and he also explains that it's a strategy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Brahmana Murtina in this verse refers to the founder of the Mayavad philosophy. Shankaracharya was born in the Malabar district of southern India. Mayavada philosophy states that the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the cosmic manifestation are all transformations of illusory energy. There's that Harinamavad. Wow. And then also they have this Vivartavad. Anyway, to support this atheistic theory, the Mayavadis cite false scriptures which make people bereft of transcendental knowledge and addicted to fruitive activities of mental speculation. This verse is a quotation from the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda 25:7. Shuni Bhattacharya Haila Parama Vismita Mukhenani Sarevani Haila Stambita. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very much astonished upon hearing this. He became stunned and said nothing. I mean, Lord Chaitanya was basically pulling the rug out from underneath Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had based his whole life upon this Mayavad philosophy. You know, imagine if you just show someone that everything they were looking for is wrong. Wow. That's really hard. Just like nowadays in America, there's this QAnon thing, and sometimes others try to extract people from the QAnon conspiracies. And it's very hard because their whole life is based upon that. I mean, they just become addicted to watching different things on the internet and believing anything they see. And they become averse to science. If they see someone on the internet who says he's a doctor, anyway, he may be a BS doctor, then they believe anything that person says and they don't even look at science. Oh my God, it's called cognitive dissonance. And they're so attached, they won't give it up. They won't admit they're wrong. Even when someone knows they're going down the wrong path, they won't admit it because it just means their whole sense of identity is kaput. I'll translate that word kaput. It's German. Finished. Prabhukai Bhattacharya Nakara Vismaya Bhagavani Bhakti Parama Purushartha Haya. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then told them, do not be astonished. Actually, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest perfection of human activity. Atmarama Paryantakare Ishvara Bhajana Aichaya Chincha Bhagavan Mera Gunagana. Even the self-satisfied sages perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Such are the transcendental qualities of the Lord. They are full of inconceivable spiritual potency. So the reason this statement is there, and we're going to hear more about this statement because this is in reference to a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam called the Atmarama verse. So let's unpack this. Even self-satisfied sages, that means those who are aloof from the material world, they perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Why would they perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord if the Lord and devotional service were material? Because these self-satisfied sages are not interested in the material, right? So think about that. Just think about it. For example, let's say I had a PhD in mathematics. Would I be practicing my times tables? I don't think so, because I'm transcendental to the times table. But I would engage in something that was transcendental to what I was. Anyway, probably not the best example. Even the self-satisfied. So remember that. It says those who are transcendental, or actually taking pleasure in the self, not in the material world, they perform devotional service to the Lord. That proves that the Lord's devotional service is transcendental. Such are the transcendental qualities of the Lord. They are full of inconceivable spiritual potency. Now, here is the verse from the Bhagavatam. All righty. Atmaramascha muniyo nigranta pirukrame kurvantya tuktim bhaktim itambutakmuno harihi. Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, which proves that the loving service of Krishna is transcendental. Whose qualities are transcendental, whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. This is the famous Atmarama verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, 7th chapter, text 10. Okay, I wanted to do something a little bit different now. Let me just write down where we left off today. Whoops, there goes my glasses. All right, we left off. Last text was 186. Okay. So what I wanted to do right now is to show you a little video, if that's all right. And this video is about what we are doing. Let's see if I can find it. Whoops. Give me 1 second. It's not it. Whoops. I may not be able to find it. Anyway. That's kind of strange. Oh, I know where it is. Sorry. I am sorry. This is where it is. It was where it was. Anyway, I'll show it to you off of the internet. It won't be as high a quality. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm guessing you today because we are. So what I'm going to show everybody is an appeal for help for the devotees in India who are suffering from the COVID crisis, and also an appeal for those devotees in Bangladesh who are suffering from the COVID crisis. So let's show this. And if anyone wants to help later, just go on my Facebook page. There's a link for how you can help with this fundraiser for the COVID crisis. So here we go. Facing an event, a challenge, a problem of unprecedented magnitude. And what is this event of unprecedented magnitude that we are facing? We are facing a disaster for our devotees, members, people in general in the Mayapur area and also in the Bangladesh area. I was informed that there are over 140 centers of the Krishna consciousness movement in Bangladesh, and there are literally millions of our congregational members in Bangladesh. In addition, we have literally hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of members in the Mayapur area. And due to the COVID disaster, the virus that is affecting all of India and many other parts of the world, we have an unprecedented occurrence of medical emergencies, and in addition, because of the financial constraints, the weather problems that have occurred in Bangladesh, we have mass starvation. So as devotees, when we hear about these particular events, catastrophes, our hearts should be affected. And the initial response we have, or the response that we have, should be, how can we help people? How can we help the devotees? And even how can we help people in general? We know that Srila Prabhupada, when he saw the children and the animals fighting for the leaf plate remnants of the devotees in Mayapur, started crying. And he made a statement that no one within a certain radius of the temple should ever go hungry. So that is the quality of a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is described as Vanchakalpatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha. Kripa Sindhu means a Vaishnava is an ocean of compassion, ocean of mercy. A Vaishnava sees everyone as connected to himself through the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmana evanu pashyati. Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato navigigupshate, as the Upanishad says. So therefore it behooves us to do something about this crisis. And what can we do about this crisis? Both the medical crisis and the crisis of insufficient food for many of our devotees, congregational members in Bangladesh and in Mayapur. We can provide Lakshmi, money, to these devotees, and that's what this event is about. We want to raise the consciousness of worldwide ISKCON and of people in general worldwide, so that we can make a concerted effort and turn the tide and help these devotees. There are devotees in Bangladesh right now that are starving to death. Literally. This is not just figuratively. There are devotees in Bangladesh and Mayapur who are dying because of lack of proper medical care equipment. We must act immediately to help these people. So I'm asking everyone to do whatever they can do within their capacity to help the people in Mayapur, the devotees, the congregational members in Mayapur and in Bangladesh. Thank you very much. All glories to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyway, I just wanted to show that hopefully the sound level was all right on that. The sound level's too high now for my speaking. Just let me adjust this. Give me 1 second. It's too high. So if anyone is interested in helping with the situation there, they can go on my Facebook page, bkgoswami Das, and I'll send that in the chat window. There you'll find the link. Also, I'll send you the link right now for the video. So you got the direct link to help. Hold on 1 second. All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. There's a direct link. You can copy it. And if you're interested in helping with the devotees in Mayapur and also in Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh, there's over 140 centers. And there's literally millions of devotees. I know Bangladesh is a Muslim country, but still, there's literally millions of devotees who, because of the flooding situation and because of the COVID situation, who don't have enough to eat. So if anyone's interested in helping them, please click on that link, and all the money is going to go directly to Bangladesh and Mayapur for helping the devotees. Okay, so let's take some questions. And let me unmute everybody. Hold on 1 second. You can ask questions about what I just showed you, or you can ask questions about anything you want. So who has a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Madhava, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah, so earlier you were talking about that the illusion which can be applied only to a person who identifies with the body. So my question is Shankaracharya he thought that he is this body?
No, Shankaracharya did not think he was the body. He definitely didn't think. Shankaracharya knew. Shankaracharya is a Vaishnava, first of all. And that's shown by his poems, especially his poem about the Bhagavad Gita and his final saying to his disciples, in which he says, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda Mudamate. He says to his disciples before he left this world, just worship Govinda, just worship Govinda, just worship Govinda. So he is a Vaishnava, just like Lord Shiva is Param Vaishnava, Vaishnava Yatam Shambhu. However, he had a mission. So Shankaracharya didn't think he was the body, and the Mayavadis don't think they're the body either. The Mayavadis understand about reincarnation, they understand the soul, they understand karma. The people take different bodies according to their karma, but their point is that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal. You know, a lot of their philosophy, I would say 80% of the philosophy is the same as our philosophy. You know, like Bhagavad Gita philosophy, the embodied soul is continually passing from boyhood to youth, then to old age. That's one thing. That's the same. Another point is that karma, the living entity takes a certain birth according to karma. The living entity is not his body. I mean, practically speaking, in many aspects, it's the same, except for the ultimate realization. The ultimate realization of a Mayavadi is to lose your identity and merge into the Supreme Brahman, because you are the Supreme Brahman, and somehow or other you've forgotten you're the Supreme Brahman. The Supreme Brahman has become an illusion. That's called Vivarta Vada, the illusory understanding. And basically, ultimately everything is one. Everything's just energy, undifferentiated energy. So that's really how the Mayavadis differ from what we teach.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We teach the ultimate truth as a person, and the person has these energies that emanate from him, such as this material energy, such as the spiritual energy, such as the jiva soul. And the absolute truth, when he manifests these different energies, doesn't become changed by the manifestation. The change is called parinama. So we say the absolute truth doesn't undergo transformation, but his energies undergo transformation. You understand? Like the material energy, for example, exists, but it gets transformed. Sometimes it's manifest, sometimes it's unmanifest, just like anything. I mean, let's take this phone here. This phone is a piece of plastic. Previously, it was oil. Plastic comes from oil. Not the whole thing, but let's say the plastic on the phone was previously oil. And then one day it will go into a landfill. One day it may go in the ocean. And then ultimately it'll disintegrate and become something else. So it's real. The energy of this phone is real, but it gets transformed into different objects or different chemicals. So the Supreme Lord's energies are real and they become transformed. That's called Shakti Parinambad. But the Supreme Absolute Truth is never transformed. Does that explain
Yes,
to me?
Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so who else has a question? No other questions.
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay. Yeah. So what's your question?
My question is regarding Lord Durga Devi and
Lord Durga Devi?
Goddess Durga Devi.
You don't say Lord, you say goddess.
Sorry.
Lord is used for males. Goddess is used for females. Maybe you could say Lordess. Lordess, or divine grace. Lordess. I mean, it's just like common usage. All right. So what's the question about Lord Durga Devi? I'm just joking.
And the question is that she's my East Devi. Like when I was like, I'm Jainism, but I'm born into her clan. Like we worship, because when the child is born in our family, we have to offer hair to her, like we are given to her.
Yeah.
So Jainis, you said that we never worship a female energy by itself, like so, but we worship Durga Devi by itself, not with the Lord Shiva.
Well, that's not proper. You should worship Durga with Shiva. Just like you don't worship, you should worship Lakshmi with Vishnu. Durga is the most chaste lady. For example, if you have a chaste lady, you should just definitely have her husband present.
We have temples where we only worship her. That's the
Well, there may be so many temples, but whether they're philosophically correct or not is another question.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking about philosophical correctness, not what goes on. I mean, in India also you have rat temples. Does that make it right? You know, we worship Durga, the material energy personified. She's a Vaishnavi. You can worship her as a Vaishnavi, which is the proper mood. Yes, but she should be seen in reference to her husband, Lord Shiva.
Guru Maharaj. And there's another, if nobody has any question, I have another question regarding.
Yeah.
The other question is, you said that Guru is eternal. So the question is following on that.
Guru is
eternal.
what?
Eternal, like it's gonna stay forever. Like if we have any guru, like initiating Guru Maharaj would be eternal.
Well, all of us are eternal.
No, the relationship, the Guru and Sishya relationship.
Yes, the relationship is eternal.
Yeah, but what about when a person take a sannyas and he has another guru who gives him a sannyas?
The sannyas guru is a formality. That's a social. I mean, it's just like, I mean, for example, let's say you go to the university. Here's a good example. And you study under a particular professor to get your PhD. Okay, very nice. But then your certificate is given by the president of the university. That's just an official thing. But your actual mentor is the person who you study under. Right?
Yes.
Or let's say you get a driving license. Let's say you have driving instruction how to drive a car. That's your driving guru. But the government gives you your official license.
Yes.
That doesn't mean the government is your guru.
No.
Your driving guru is the guy who taught you how to drive.
Yes.
So in the same way, taking sannyas is just a social function. Just like someone gets married, it's a social function. You don't have an eternal relationship with the priest who performs your marriage or with the Brahmin who performs your marriage. You don't. I mean, except in exceptional cases, you don't have an eternal relationship, but you have an eternal relationship with your wife or husband, maybe. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said the husband and wife, they have eternal relationships. They go back to Godhead together. It's real romance, if you really like that. Okay, on that happy note.
I have a question.
Yes, real quick, because the time is almost up. Okay.
Okay, a quick question. Something that bothered me. I read that Srila Prabhupada went to Boston 1965. Then he went to New York 1966. But about that time, there was racial tension in New York. So then
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada, a lot of the hippies and took to, he lived on Second Avenue, he lived in the Bowery, and a lot of the hippies took to the movement. My question is, what happened to the blacks? What, they didn't like Krishna? They didn't like Prashadam? Srila
Oh
Prabhupada
no,
didn't
we have a lot of blacks in our movement.
because my question is, at that time, the blacks needed Krishna because they were going through so much with the civil rights movement at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
Well,
I
if you look at the early pictures of the movement, we had quite a few blacks, and we still do, black devotees. I mean, one of the most prominent members of the movement, unfortunately passed away, was my dear friend Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He was he was black, and he was actually, he was super intelligent. He was the valedictorian of Princeton University, I believe. Yeah, Princeton University. So we did have a lot of black devotees. And there were there are black sannyasis, and there were black sannyasis. So yes, we had black people joining. Does that answer the question?
of course, definitely. I was just kind of concerned because when I read,
Yeah,
I see exactly.
Krishna consciousness does not discriminate between white and black, or any nationality, race, religion, or gender even. Okay, thank you for your question. We have to end now because it's late. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.